Welcome to the Cory Lee Show, where our focus is on building leaders and transforming culture. My name is Cory Lee, and in each episode, I aspire to ignite something on the inside of you that encourages you to grow yourself and to make an impact on the world around you. Welcome to the Cory Lee Show. Welcome to the Cory Lee Show, guys. I got a super exciting episode today. I got a new friend, Miss Kim Tschirret. And just to let you guys know, Kim, she is the founder of Hope Reins. It is a haven for children seeking hope and healing through the profound connection between, interestingly, kids and horses, right? And so I know she's going to jump into her story here in a bit, but her journey, she was born from her own childhood struggles led to the creation of what she has now, this 38-acre sanctuary in Raleigh, North Carolina. And so she's been featured in national publications and podcasts with her impactful story highlighted by her best-selling book, Joy. I like that. And so I know this is going to be a great conversation. I just want to say, Kim, welcome to the Cory Lee Show.
Thank you so much for having me, Cory. I'm really excited, really honored.
It's an honor. I know your story is very powerful, and just what you do is a powerful thing. And so, Kim, I gave you a little bit of your intro with what you're doing now with Hope Reins, and you've written a book. But books usually come out of a journey and out of some kind of story. Yeah. And I would love to hear part of yours. Can you take us? So that's where you are today. Take us on that journey. How did you get to where you are today?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, actually, a volunteer wrote the book. I just want to be clear about that, but we can talk about that. So, yeah. So thanks. So I grew up in Ohio in a upper middle class home that looked really great on the outside. My dad was a very successful businessman, and we didn't want for anything financially, but what people didn't know is it wasn't good on the inside. My dad was an alcoholic, very verbally and emotionally abusive, and I never knew safety as a little girl. And for anybody who's grown up in an environment like that, an addiction environment, there's so much shame and there's so much hiding, right? And we were never allowed to talk about what was happening outside of our house or in our house. And, kids know. I knew as a kid something was not right with this situation. And I would try to bring it up, and it was just, pushed to the side. But, and we didn't have a faith, right? I didn't have really a lot to hold on to. But for whatever reason, my dad bought me a horse. And I think probably because it looked good, right? Having a horse maybe at the time was a prestigious thing. But my horse ended up, Cory, being like my companion, and like this only thing that I ever really whispered my secrets to, the only thing that ever knew what was happening in my life. And I just remember sitting in his stall, and he was munching on his hay and just pouring my heart out about my childhood. And I kind of think of my journey as pain, performance, and purpose, because the pain of my childhood, I think a lot of kids in my situation either kind of withdraw and implode, or they go the other trajectory and they perform. And I went the performance route because I only wanted my dad's love and attention, which I unfortunately never got. But I tried to kind of emulate what he did, right? I did really well in school. I went to the college he wanted me to go to. I worked in business, had a really successful career in marketing and entrepreneurship, like smaller businesses, and really never found that thing that would fill my heart until I found Jesus in my early 30s after I had my son. And I said, I'll never stay home with my kids, and I'll never drive a minivan. And guess what happened?
You driving that minivan.
I was driving that minivan, but my career just became really empty. It was this thing I was trying to get my value from that never really fulfilled. And so after I had my son, I came to know Jesus and stayed home, and God really started working on some stuff with me.
Wow, that's powerful. Yeah. I'm curious. So in those seasons where you were trying to perform and trying to do things, like, did you still feel the empty void, like that thing on the inside? Can you describe that? I don't know if you can
Oh,
even use
yeah.
words to describe it. I don't
Oh,
know.
yeah. Yeah. In fact, some of your listeners might relate to this. I lived in the when then mentality. So when this happens, then I'm going to be happy. When
Mhm.
I get this job, then I'm going to be happy. When I move, then I'm going to be happy. When I get in this relationship, then I'm going to be happy. I was looking at all the surfacey things of this world to kind of fill my happiness, but I was so empty inside and I had no value, right? Because when you're a kid and you grow up with that kind of trauma and lack of unconditional love, you seek it in other places, right? And I was trying to do what the world said to do to feel success, to be successful and happy. And I was just so empty. And I'll never forget the first time I went in a church and I just was drawn there. I literally, all I could do, Cory, was weep. It was just like this uncontrollable. I couldn't, and I think it was just the spirit, like, moving in my heart. And, we live in the South down here, and not everybody hears this, I think, as clearly. But man, when my pastor stood up and said, "It's Jesus," I was like, I want that. I think God just was preparing my heart.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's that win then. I like that. It's so easy. And it's so easy when you're caught up in, I think even for Christians to do that as well, when you're really not focused on that relationship there. When I get this job, when I get this amount of money, when I get this certain role, and man, Jesus is enough and is a powerful thing.
Yeah.
It reminds me of the Matthew 6:33 where he says, seek first the kingdom, all that other stuff, all the
Yeah.
other stuff will be added to you.
Yeah.
But we tend to focus on all the other stuff, and
Yes, we
which is
do.
easy to get caught in. So
Yeah, we do.
that's amazing. And so when I first read your bio and I heard the name
Mhm.
Hope Reins, the word hope, that's such a powerful word there.
Mhm.
I'm curious why you guys chose that name.
Hope Reins. Well, and it's Reins.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it's,
yes.
yeah, is a little play on because we're working with horses. Yeah. I think what I've discovered, just in my own journey and especially working with our families, when you're in a really, really dark place, it just takes a little bit, a little bit of light, just a flicker of hope, a flicker of things can be different. This is what our kids see when they first come on our property and they're so shut down from what they've been through. And they see this horse that has been rescued from a similar circumstance and they go, oh, they were abused like me. They were starved. They were like, you name it, but they're thriving and they're happy and they look really good. And I think it is just that picture of what hope can look like for me. Maybe if they're okay, maybe I can be okay too. And same thing for our families. They see other kids on our property that have been in our program for a while that are doing well. And I think it gives our parents hope that maybe my child is going to be okay too.
Yeah, I think that's such a powerful thing. What you guys offer and what you're doing. I'm curious too about like if somebody comes there, like what's the program look like? Like
Yeah.
how do I receive healing? I guess.
Yeah. Well, we have our pathway. It's kind of like a stepped pathway. It's 3 years, 5 steps, but we always start with our kids. There's 2 requirements, and it's the only requirements. Our program is completely free of charge for all of our kids and families, and the majority of our kids live at or below the poverty line. And the mental health crisis has never been worse, so they can't afford anything, any type of experience like this. But Cory, they get a voice. They get a voice because they have been overrun, like their boundaries have been overrun, or they've been, sexually abused, or, whatever happened to them, they didn't have a voice in. And so from 5 years old to 18, we will take them on a tour. We will share with them the stories of the horses, and inevitably they start making a one connection. But we ask them, do you want to be here? Do you want to participate? Because if they don't, it's not going to work, right? And somebody asked me a great question the other day. Well, how can a 5-year-old say yes to something that most adults might not even say yes to? And I think it's because when you walk on our property, it's this safe refuge, and people will tell us, especially non-believers, what is here? I feel something really like peaceful here. What's happening? And our horses are all happy and calm and well cared for. And I think the kids just recognize, wow, I get to hang out with a horse and really make this connection. And it just really works. And then the parents are part of the healing process, right? They stay on premise and are part of the healing process. And a lot of times a kid will choose a horse, again, based on their story and their connection. And then sometimes, Cory, it's so cool. Horses choose kids. We had one instance with a little girl who, horrific story, like I can't even tell you. And they were walking along for their tour, and this horse just made a beeline right for her, put his head over the fence, put his nose right on her chest, and just took a big sigh and said, "I choose you." So it just really, it just happens. Really exciting. And then we're a skills-based program, Cory. So horses teach humans 4 things naturally: trust, communication, boundaries, and leadership. Those are the skills that we are continually working on building with our kids through this interaction, this 90-minute interaction that they have on a weekly basis with their horse and their mentor.
Wow, that's really good. I love the leadership stuff, and so I would love, like, how does a horse teach some leadership? I'd love to learn that.
Well, my goodness, our horses weigh anywhere between 1,000 to 2,500 pounds. So there's some leadership right there, right? You've got to really, you've got to build their trust. You've got to earn their respect, right? And we do, a lot of different groups do horses many different ways. Our horses, like our kids, have a voice in what they want to do. And we've very specifically trained them to connect with kids in trauma. It's a very different type of training and relationship. So they really want to be in relationship. They want to come out. It's a good experience for them when they do that. But we play all sorts of games, especially on the ground. You can imagine leading and your horse wanting to follow you is a big leadership question. Horses want to know, are you safe, and are you going to feed me, and am I going to be safe with you? So they're always looking for leadership. They live in a herd with a pecking order. There's the number one, and the number one's purpose is to keep everybody safe, right? And then we have a pecking order. So they're very used to that kind of hierarchy, and they're always asking lots of questions like, am I going to be safe with you? Do you know what you're doing? So we have to help our kids build that confidence in themselves, value themselves, and build that confidence. And then we have all sorts of activities that we do.
I love that. Trust is the very foundation of leadership.
It is. And building and having good boundaries, right? Horses teach us great boundaries, right? And communication, they are 100% nonverbal communicators, right? Studies say that only 10% of our communication is actually verbal, and the rest is nonverbal, even though I feel like I'm always talking, you know what I mean? So having our kids slow down and really listen and be mindful of what they're seeing and what they're communicating is really important.
Wow. That's very interesting you say that. I know before we press record, I was telling you a little bit about my background in physical therapy, and we did some hippotherapy, so we used horses. And super quick, funny story. I was working with this young kid one day, and it was a bad day. Let's just say that. It was one of his bad days, right? He just wasn't feeling it. And we were getting on the horse, and he was pitching a fit, and I put him on the horse. He had been upset the whole time. And he looked at me. I mean, he was clawing my arms, and he just looked at me. And then, Kim, he put his little finger up in his nose.
Oh.
And he wiped a booger
he did not, right on you.
He wiped a booger on my arm. He was happy the rest of the day. I know
so
you just
funny.
didn't.
That's so funny.
Anyway,
I can't say that I've ever had a booger wiped on me, but yeah. But to your point, Cory, I mean, we aren't therapists. We are lay people that have been trained in something called being trauma informed, which is simply a question that you ask is not what is wrong with you, but what's happened to you, right? And that's the lens that we view our kids through every single day when they come up the gate. Is like, because so many times bad behavior, what we term as bad behavior, is really somebody who's hurting.
Yeah. Say those two questions one more time, because I think that's a powerful piece right there.
Yeah. It's not what is wrong with you. Like there's something wrong with you, but what happened to you. Yeah. And I honestly think and I love the church, the big church, but the big church really struggles with dealing with mental illness and these types of issues with people. And I think if we all could look at each other and go, what's happened to you, instead of reacting to maybe my behavior, think we would all be a lot better off.
Yeah, I mean that phrase, "What's wrong with you?" That question, that leads to a lot of shame and guilt and those kind of
Sure
things. That's
does.
the
It sure
nail to
does.
the
And
cross.
a lot of assumptions and yeah. Yeah.
Wow. And so, I know the line of work that you said, and you even mentioned just a few minutes ago about the mental health crisis. Is kind of, I think we all kind of see like, but you're in it, right? Like you're in there and you're dealing with some of that and helping with some of that. What is there a solution? Like, what are some solutions? Like, what can we do?
Wow. Well, I'm really glad you asked. God has really taught us a lot over the last 15 years. I've never worked in nonprofit and I've never worked in ministry. I come at this from a business background, an entrepreneurial business background. And so we not only have a solution like our program that God's given us that works really well, but we feel like we have a really proven process in the way that we deliver it. The Joey book that you mentioned, Cory, came out in 2017. That was written by one of our volunteers, and it's about one of our rescued horses that was blinded from starvation. He was like an alternate to the Olympics in his heyday, and the story it's about basically blind faith, walking blind faith. But the story of one of our little kids who was waiting to get in our program, she was 5 years old and she was mute, Cory, from her abuse. She chose not to speak. And she had been waiting to get into our program. And when she got in, she wanted to work with Joey. And you could only work with Joey doing voice commands. And so this little girl had to learn to speak and decide she was going to speak, working with this blind horse. So it's this really beautiful story. Well, it's sold over 100,000 copies. It's become a national bestseller. And we started to get phone calls from around the world with people saying, I want to start something similar. And so over the last several years, we've built a training program. So we're going to continue to serve our kids at our ranch, right, and do what we do. But we've launched this training program to basically help quick start people to start a similar nonprofit in their community, because we just want more kids to have access to hope and healing where they are in their community. And so we've launched this program, and leadership is one of the things that we really teach people.
Wow, that's powerful. I mean, I was actually just about to ask you, like, if someone cannot come to Raleigh, like what do they do? Like, what are some options? And so, there are options all around.
Well, we feel like the solution, like, kids have to have access to something, and that's part of the problem. Is there's not enough therapists, there's not enough resources. And so that's why we're not saying we're the only solution. We're saying we are a solution that works, and we can help people, if God's calling you to start something similar.
Hey guys, I hope you are enjoying this episode of the Cory Lee Show. Y'all, I am on a mission to build leaders and to transform culture. So if you're looking for a speaker who speaks directly to the heart, a mentor to come alongside you and your team, or if you're in a position where you're looking for a personal coach who embraces where you are and also believes in who you could become, then I would be honored to walk this path with you. Simply reach out to me on my email at Cory@CoryLeeLeadership.com. Look, let's make your vision a reality. Contact me, and together we'll navigate the path from aspiration to achievement. Your transformation, it starts now. Yeah, that's good stuff. I love that. Well, I'd love to kind of go back to part of your story. You mentioned that there's kind of two routes that you can go. You said performance, and then like I'm just over, I'm curious because there was obviously some perseverance that was in there. Like you pushed through some things, like that persistence, perseverance, that grittiness. Like what role does that play in trauma, or does it?
Yeah, that's such a great question. Well, I want to share first about a study that was done, and then I'm going to connect back to what you asked me, if that's okay with you. There's a study that we found that Harvard did, the Harvard Center for the Developing Child, and they're asking the same question that you are, Cory. It's a great one. Why is it that some kids can bounce back from their trauma, and why is it some of them become, as adults, the incarcerated, the homeless, the drug addicted? I mean, every societal problem that you can think of the majority is linked back to childhood trauma. And so this decades long study that Harvard did. And what they found was that the kids who were able to bounce back had resilience, which is exactly what you're talking about. It's the grit, it's the perseverance, it's the ability to bounce back. Well, there's 4 things that they said kids need. And the number one thing is one safe adult relationship. And that could be, and that's what we do every day, right? Is our one safe adult relationship. But just to encourage your listeners, like, you can be that one safe adult relationship. Do you know what I mean? If you see somebody, a child that's hurting, engage them, listen to them, see them. Kids need to be seen and heard, and just know that somebody cares. They need to believe in themselves. They need to have healthy coping skills. And listen to the 4th one that Harvard says: they need to have a foundation of faith. A foundation. Even Harvard talked about having a foundation of faith. And so for me, I think it kind of goes back to, I think I had a lot of grit and perseverance. Like you said, I didn't want to go the route that I saw other people going. Like my brother, who I love dearly, went the route of became an alcoholic, was living on the streets. I mean, I kind of had this bird's eye view into a route I didn't want to go. Right. And so I just continue to pick myself up and persevere. But what I realized, Cory, even after I became a believer and even after starting Hope Reins, I entered a period, and I'm sure you've started up lots of things, and you know how hard that is. Startup is hard. It's stressful. And I was having panic attacks. I thought I was having heart attack, but I was having panic attacks. And I think what God really wanted to show me is, daughter, you're still performing, right? I was still performing for God. I thought, I have to do this thing for God to love me, because it was so deeply ingrained in me with my father wound. So I think it really matters how you're pushing forward and how you're persevering. Today, I'm not perfect, but I tell you what, I let God lead and I follow where He's going. Doesn't mean I don't step out and do things, because I think God does call us to step out and be brave. And I have a very high risk tolerance. I'm a high risk tolerance person. So
yeah, you my kind of people, Kim. You my kind of people.
I think we're both. You're a visionary, aren't you? You're totally a visionary. Yes. Yeah.
I like it.
I'm with you.
So that Harvard study, that's a powerful thing. What you said, number one, was a safe adult, right? Like a
safe adult. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, and I love what you said too. I mean, that could be anybody, right? Like you can be that for someone, a safe space, a listening ear to ask questions. And man, that's a powerful thing. So you had that. Did you have that in your life when you were growing up, or?
Well, I had my horse, Cory. That's what I had.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. The horse.
So for me, it was my horse, and for a kid, it could be a horse. It could be a dog, for goodness sake. That's not one adult relationship, like human. I think human is best. But for me, it started, I think, with that horse connection, and then God resurrected that. So
yeah. Let me ask you this. So say there's somebody listening and they are an adult, right? Yeah. Most people who listen to this podcast, they are adults, I think.
Yeah.
I've been told there's some kids who listen, which is great. Hey, that is awesome. I love it.
They should. This is good stuff for them to know.
Yeah. But let me ask this. So say somebody's listening and they kind of see some behaviors in a child. How do they position themselves to be that kind of adult? Do you have some advice for somebody that how do they be that safe space?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think sometimes it's really important to ignore behavior. Like, their parents can manage their behavior. You know what I mean? I think if you're trying to connect with a kid, just like be there, right? Physical presence. Like so many times with our mentors, initially, like a kid may show up, and some of our kids, they want to run. They have to run. They got to get their wiggles out. And so they just run with them, right? They just sort of meet them where they are. And try to find some interests, like what interests them, what excites them to talk about. They normally don't want to talk about what's hard. Like they're most likely not going to sit there and tell you, my home life is terrible, right? So find a commonality and a way to connect and talk, and just be that safe person, right? Don't try to fix them. You don't have to try to fix. I think there's so much to being with and being a good listening ear. And I think if you build that trust, and showing up is really important. Every week, the same mentor shows up for our kids, and they really build that trust and build that relationship. And maybe you'll get to what's really bothering them and hurting them, but you have to really build the relationship first and get that safety and trust.
Yeah, that's good. As you were talking, I was thinking about, we have a little neighborhood boy who comes to our house. I don't think he's being abused by any means, but he always comes up. He's probably in first grade. He's always asking for me. He's like, Mr. Cory, where you at, Mr. Cory? And he remembers everything of our conversation. Hey, how'd your podcast go with Kim the other day? Right? Like,
oh, that's so precious.
You know, but he'll say stuff like that. I was thinking yesterday, because I heard him, he doesn't knock. He just comes in the door.
Yeah.
And he says, Mr. Cory. And the first thought that come to my mind, why is he always asking for me? And it hit me in a split second. It was like, well, it's because I always engage with him in conversation. I always ask him, hey, how did your art show go? Hey, how did and just trying to position to listen. That's
well,
good.
He knows you care about him and that you see him, and he's obviously drawn to something that you have that you're giving to him. So that's really awesome.
Yeah. Well, so with Hope Reins, with the program that you guys have, I know, is it faith-based, or do you try to intertwine that in there some way, or do people, when they come in, it's like, hey, we know this is a faith-based thing?
They know, our number one core value is Jesus heals. So they know that, we love our horses, and they have lots of wonderful things and reasons why we use them as therapy partners, but we don't think they heal people. So we definitely are about the gospel and about Jesus, and our families know that coming in, and we're not, they don't have to believe what we believe. We just want to love them exactly where they are and be the hands and feet of Jesus. And there's lots of opportunities. There's scripture woven into really all the activities that we're doing. We get to share our story, our faith story, with kids when it's appropriate, at an age appropriate, in an age appropriate way. And then we have listeners that sit with our families, our parents, because they're hurting so much, Cory. When your kid is hurting, the whole family's hurting. Yeah. And they get prayer if they want it, and they get somebody to just really listen, because our parents tell us they don't really have anybody that understands what they're going through. When your child's sexually abused or they're suicidal, there's so much shame. There's so much, like, people say stupid things like, why is your kid not healed? Why are they not better? Like, what, and people don't need to hear that stuff. So they just need a place where they can be safe. And then we're training people, in our faith philosophy, the way we do things and how we do it. They get to choose, right, how they want to go do things. But we feel like it's just really vital. And even Harvard says it's vital. So yeah. We love to be able to tell our left brain people, those people that they want to know the science, that Harvard even says you got to have a foundation of faith. You
just say Harvard, we're good. Yeah.
And there you go.
There you go. I like that. Yeah. When it is your child, it is tough, because all the things you said, but it can make you feel hopeless. And so it's good to have a place where hope reigns, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I could tie that in there for you.
Yeah.
So obviously you've kind of your story, you've been in business. The Lord brought you back to the house, and now you've opened up a nonprofit. I'm sure you've got your fair share of leadership lessons, some things that you learned about leadership, and if there's somebody listening, maybe what's maybe one or two of your favorite leadership principles, or maybe some lessons that you've learned along your journey.
Yeah, thank you. That's really a great question. Well, I think one of the biggest things I've learned, Cory, is that really great leadership is not about managing people well. It's really about managing yourself well. Mm-hmm. And if we don't manage ourselves well, it's really hard for other people to want to follow you or really want to listen. And I've done more healing personally over the last 15 years. And I think the majority of our staff would say that. And I think that to really lead, manage yourself well, you have to know yourself. I think so many people don't know themselves, right? And we do so much with assessments. We love assessments at Hope Reins. And I mentioned earlier, I have a coach I work with. We're really into growing and continuing to grow and get better. And I think, one of the assessments we just took was the 6 Working Geniuses, Pat Lencioni. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
Yeah.
And it's just such a great opportunity for us as a staff because we get to see like what are the things we're really good at. One of a coach that I read said, you really like happiness and success comes from like working in your unique ability, and God created all of us uniquely, right? I'm a visionary and a galvanizer, and I want to get out there and share the dream and get people joining us. Man, don't ask me to manage a project to completion, because that is completely and utterly life-sucking to me. I can do it, but it's not my expertise. And I think a lot of people ask us as well about, for me, Hope Reins is a calling, right? But I don't think that what you do has to be your calling. You know what I mean? I think you find purpose in the journey along the way. Rick Warren said a really powerful quote that your greatest ministry will come out of your deepest hurt. And that's all I'm doing is my ministry came out of my pain and hurt. And anybody can do that, Cory. You're doing it maybe with a kid that you don't even know like what his story is, right? But anybody could, whatever you've gone through, you can use that as a platform to help and connect other people, right? Our scripture is in 2 Corinthians to comfort others with the comfort that we've received. And that's really what we're doing on a daily basis.
Yeah, that's good stuff. Know yourself to grow yourself. Yeah, that's
know
good.
yourself. You gotta know yourself, and then share your story and just walk confidently in that, right? Because it's your story, and somebody's gonna connect and resonate to it.
That's right. I like that, and I'm with you. More on the visionary end. We got the detail stuff. It's like, not so much. I like that.
But there's other people in our lives that they love to do that, and they're so gifted at it, and we celebrate that. We celebrate it.
That's how you build great teams. That's how you build great people, is allowing them to get into their role. And
absolutely,
I like that.
Yeah.
Well, Kim, you add a ton of value. It's so good. I think it's really good. And so, say somebody is listening and they're like, I love what you guys are doing. Maybe they want to support your ministry or nonprofit, or maybe they want to find out more about it, or is it, hey, I want to do that in my town. That sounds awesome, right? Like how do people get in touch with you to find out more about you, Hope Reins, and even the book Joy?
Yeah, well, so we've got a really special offer for your listeners. If our website is Reins, REINS.org. And if you go to /podcast, we've got 3 things that people can do. They can go to our website. There's lots of stories. They can find out all about, what's happening on the ranch. There's giving opportunities to help support our kids, because again, everything we do is free. They can sign up to be on our newsletter to receive stories from the ranch. We're giving away a bunch of free Joey books, so you can go on the podcast page and download a free copy of Joey. You can also get it at Amazon or any bookstore. And you can find out more about the Essentials, which is the training program that I mentioned, and what that entails. It's basically everything you need to start and launch your ministry. Think of 0 to 3 years, the first 3 years of building a plan and really getting yourself started. And we've already have 26 people that have purchased it and are building right now, and we're really excited.
Wow, that's great. You guys have a lot of momentum in your business organization, but also you're creating momentum in communities and families' lives. And I just think that's a powerful thing. Powerful.
Yeah.
So,
thank you.
Well, Kim, thank you for coming on today. I know you added a ton of value to me. I know you added a ton of value to our listeners. And just say thank you for joining us today. Yeah.
Thank you, Cory, for having me. It was sure an honor.
Yes. Well, thank you guys for taking the listen. And if there was something that stood out to you, make sure to comment, and we'll pass that along and connect with Hope Reins, find out more of them. Make sure you like and subscribe so you can stay up to date with any of the latest episodes of the Cory Lee Show. We hope you have a great day, and God bless.
3, 2, 1. Okay.
Thanks for joining me today. I hope I have added value to you. And if you have found value in this episode, let me know. Drop a comment and make sure you share with a friend or family member. See you next episode.